Good afternoon. Welcome back to Moneycontrol's live stream. You're watching Closing Bell with me, Lovisha, Darad, and my colleague Yatin, Mota. Well, Yatin, it was a day of breather, as I call it, because after the 4 straight days of rally, no major movement that came in on the headline indices front. If you look at Sensex, that was flat in the red, and even Nifty also settled very flattish in the red, but stayed above that 25,100 mark that we were hoping for. Broader markets which have been stealing the spotlight lately, that also saw relative cool off, but small caps, they continue to march ahead for the 7th straight session with about 0.3% gains. Mid caps also showing some resilience, but however ended flat in the green. If you look at some of the sectoral indices, Nifty IT, that was a star performer of the day. 5 straight days of rally we've seen for the sector, given we have the strong US jobs report, and also market participants are waiting for some calm following the US-China trade talks. So some optimism coming in for the technology stocks there. Other than that, metal, FMCG, pharma, all of these stocks did well in today's trading session. And Bank Nifty index, which have been hitting record highs for 2 straight days, that were on the back foot with about 0.3% declines as well. And also Nifty Realty index with about a percent cut and down for the second consecutive day. So Yatin, a cool off for the market, but if you look at the broader breadth of the market, that still continues to remain positive. So that gives us some hope for the bulls going ahead.
Absolutely, that's the right point, Lovisha. And despite the markets ending on a flat note, Nifty Bank, 0.5% after the big rally after the RBI rate cut, obviously deserves some bit of cool off. But clearly the advanced decline ratio was 3:2, clearly indicating that the markets were not really very worried about the consolidation today. In fact, if you look at IT, media, pharma stocks across the board, there was buying. In fact, if you look at the top traded counters also in the future and option segment, we had stocks like BSC, Adani Group stocks, including Adani Power, Hindustan Aeronautics in the defense space, having good, strong amount of turnover. So the participation, price and volume action was there in few of the stocks despite a dull trading session.
That's right. Let's look at some of the top gainers and losers at this point of time. Grasim topping the list with about 3.8% gains, given that Morgan Stanley has reiterated its bullish call on the counter. Other than that, we can see the IT stocks also gaining some of the spotlight. We can see Tech Mahindra, Infosys, Wipro, all of them seeing a gain of about 1 to 2%. Dr. Reddy's Lab, Tata Motors also seeing a gain of about 2% each. However, on the way down, if you look at from the large caps front, Trent dominating the losers pack with about 1.5% cut. Other than that, we can see Asian Paints with about 1.2% cut. We'll discuss more on the counter later. We saw that the Morgan Stanley has has reduced the target price on the counter. So we are seeing the sentimental play out on the counter as well. Other than that, we can see Bajaj Finance with about 1% cut, Tata Steel with about a percent cut, Bajaj Finserv and Maruti Suzuki, some of them dominating the top losers on the Nifty 50. But yes, mid cap and small cap, despite the flattish and choppy sense of the markets, they continue to outperform the headline indices. Yatin, why don't you take us through some of the movers and shakers from this space?
Yeah. In the mid-cap space, we had, companies like Jindal Saw post announcing a big capital expenditure program in the Middle East. That stock saw almost 7% move coming in. In fact, the stock is up nearly 15% in the last four or five trading sessions. We had, Alok Industries, Tata Investments among the gainers, on Nifty 500. Apart from that, Adani Group stocks remained active. Today in Mumbai, they are hosting the analyst meet, post which stocks like Adani Power, Adani Energy Solutions, Adani Enterprises were flying in trade, 2 to 5% gains coming in for those stocks. We have Engineers India also moving by nearly 5%, and also Jammu Kashmir Bank moving by nearly 4%. What was not doing well is the likes of RBL Bank, some profit taking there, 4% down for that one. Coromandel International, NAM India, Westlife were the other stocks wherein we saw some bit of profit taking in trade today.
All right, Yatin, let's talk about some of the stocks that did grab limelight today. Well, let's talk about first, which is your top Nifty loser, that is your Asian Paints. The stock did see about a percent cut or so after Morgan Stanley gave the lowest target price for the counter, that is your 19.9 rupees for the counter, which implies about 15% potential downside from here on. Now, what Morgan Stanley has underlined that the fact that the derating of the paint stocks in general is not done yet, and for particularly Asian Paints, they expect it to lead the market share losses in the decorative paints business over the next 3 years. And in the bear case, they have given out even a lower target price, which is about 1300 rupees per share. and they have highlighted that increased competitive intensity, sluggish volume growth, and even weak margins are some of the derating factors which is going ahead. So, and if you look at apart from Morgan Stanley, other brokerages like CLSA and Elara Capital, they are the other two brokerages which expect that Asian Paints share to fall below the levels of about 2,000 rupees per share. Right now it's at about 2,200. They expect it to further fall below that 2,000 rupees per share. So Yatin, we saw that reports around Birla Opus alleging Asian Paints for abuse of dominant position. And this note coming at this point of time highlights a key negative for the counter going ahead too.
Yes, clearly Birla Opus has filed a complaint according to sources with the Competition Commission of India, which is now expected to widen its probe how Asian Paints is using its dominant position to disrupt the market, probably block competition and the distribution channel, according to the allegations that we have seen as per the news reports with respect to Birla Opus. So yes, competition is increasing, competitive pressures are increasing. And obviously, in a scenario when urban demand is slowing down, probably Asian Paints is feeling the heat. In fact, for the past two years, we have seen subnormal returns for Asian Paints. In fact, this year, year to date, we have seen negative returns for the counter.
Coming to the next stock in focus, like we talked about Asian Paints, let's also talk about Sona BLW, because that also saw a negative reaction, and we also saw a brokerage downgrade on the counter. We saw Bernstein downgrade the counter to market perform from outperform rating, and they've also cut the target price to about 540 rupees per share. Now what they have mentioned is that risks like Elon Musk and Trump tensions, which is feuding, proposed bill which is phasing out any EV subsidies, US-India trade agreement, and rising strength of Chinese OEMs pose significant risks to the counter going ahead. And it also sees earnings downgrade as the company has significant US exposure and bulk of its order is tied to the EV portfolio as well. So if you look at the order book, that's about 77% of its order book is tied to the EV portfolio, and 40% of revenue comes from the US markets. Even its largest customer, it's a US EV OEM based, it forms about 15 to 20% of revenue, and that is also losing market share. So Bernstein has highlighted, that they could see some earnings downgrade going ahead, and going forward also they have lowered the FY 27 to 28 estimates by 4 to 5% for Sona BLW. Yatin, if you look at the stock, that also hasn't done much this year anyway, and now there is supply chain disruptions news flow amid this rare earth dependence news on China. So that also playing quite negative on the counter too.
Yes, and more importantly, I think they are one of the top vendors from the Indian side to Tesla. And with Tesla sales tumbling across China, across US, we have seen a major slowdown in demand for electric vehicles that Tesla produces. Obviously, if you are the vendor for a big company like Tesla, and if any kind of slowdown is there at the company level, probably suppliers will suffer, and exactly what is happening for Sona BLW. Stock is not doing much, valuations wise also rich, and when it comes to the electric vehicle story, I think once the sales recover only, we could see some flare up in the stock. The stock keeps getting excited with the Tesla entry in India, but we haven't seen much of action when it comes to Sona BLW recently, and probably yes, that is the reason why the stock got a downgrade from Morgan Stanley.
That's right. All right, let's move on to the next stock in focus. While we were discussing about two losers in today's trading session, let's talk about the top Nifty gainer today. That was your Grasim Industries with about 3% uptick today. Yes. We did see that the counter received an upgrade from Morgan Stanley to about an overweight rating, and they upped the target price to about 3,500 rupees per share. What they see is ample triggers in the medium term to support the stock price movement. So a couple of factors that they have highlighted, and that's the paints launch is much better than what they had expected, and that's why a value given to its SOTP earlier, that they were given about 160 rupees to the paints business, so they have upped it to about 350 rupees at this point of time. They're also bullish on the value propositions from its paints business since the time it was launched as well. Another factor that they have highlighted and they are bullish on is its cement business. They are optimistic that Ultratech Cement, that given the Ultratech Cement's earnings is expected to compound from here on, so they are expected to gain some benefit from there itself. Also, another factor that they have highlighted is the scale up of its new business initiatives and the discount of holding business, which is expected to narrow from here on. So yes, quite a positive triggers that they have highlighted for Grasim, and especially it comes at a time when Asian Paints has received a target cut at this from Morgan Stanley. So Yatin, we did discuss about Asian Paints, but a bullish note coming in from Morgan Stanley on Grasim, and that too they also see value in paints business. That comes as a big positive.
Yes, it's coming as a good positive, and apart from that, the VSF fiber business that Grasim does has been witnessing some slower recovery, in the recent 1 or 2 quarters. So probably things are bottoming out in terms of earnings, and also the tailwind from the paint sector. So let's see how the stock really moves forward with the paints expansion plans. But moving from Grasim to another stock which is in focus. Obviously, a lot of brokerage notes today because the general news flow was quite slow, but telecom stocks are in focus. In fact, today we have HSBC's report coming in on the telecom sector, wherein they believe that Vodafone Idea's 5G expansion plans have hit the slower lane. In fact, the delays in the network expansion for Vodafone Idea would mean better subscriber addition than earlier anticipated for Reliance Jio, the telecom business, and also Bharti Airtel. In fact, they believe that ARPU as well as home broadband will be the key drivers for earnings for both Bharti Airtel as well as Reliance Jio. However, their preference in terms of the target and the upside is on Bharti Airtel. In fact, HSBC has a target of 2,100 on the stock, and when it comes to Reliance Industries, they have a target price of 1,590. However, they have a reduced rating on Vodafone Idea with a target of 5 rupees 90 paise. Obviously, Vodafone Idea has been struggling to get not only the bank funding, but also probably will not be able to raise further equity, because we haven't seen much of an improvement in their overall ARPUs, or probably the relief that was expected on the AGR front, which is the telecom dues. So yes, given the fact that Vodafone is weakening, probably HSBC sees opportunity in the shares of Bharti Airtel as well as Reliance Industries.
Also, this note comes at a time when Starlink's entry is planned in India. However, they are planning a much higher end of the subscription services, 3,000 rupees. That's what they're planning at this point of time. So yes, telecom stocks, that will be a key watch out in the upcoming days also. But yes, that's all the stocks we have had for the today. Tomorrow we'll watch out more for the developments that is coming in from the US-China trade talks. We'll watch out more on these developments. But for now, we have come to an end of this edition of Closing Bell. It's a wrap from Yatin and me, and thank you for watching.